What is up? Welcome back to another edition of the PFF podcast. I'm Mike Renner, as always, and I wanted to start out by apologizing for being a little later than usual this week. Yesterday, we're recording this on Saturday, but on Friday we had something special for you planned. We had a interview with Patrick Mahomes, but Steve forgot to record it on his computer, so that interview is not going to be heard. It was a great interview, though. We apologize to Mr. Mahomes for not recording it. He said he had some great sound bites in it. He said he had the body and physicality of Cam Newton and the mind like Tom Brady. Oh, wait, no, my bad. That was Deshaun Kaiser. No, but Mahomes was great. Sorry again, but we were going to surprise you guys with that. Didn't end up happening. And then later in the day on Friday, when we actually went to record the podcast, Steve's microphone had broken. So Steve had a bad Friday. And now he's not even here now on Saturday. His microphone's still not working. He's in Boston, and subbing in his place, Josh Liskowitz. He was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Josh, how you doing today, man?
Man, I got to tell you, I think yesterday worked out great for me. Steve gets fired, I get promoted. I'm loving it.
Oh, yeah. I'm not complaining at all either because Steve was in a bad mood after his microphone wasn't working. So that podcast was not going to go well anyways. But let's hop right into it. In the past few weeks, me and Sam on the Early Week podcast have been going over the biggest need for every team in this draft. If you want to go back and listen to those, it's over 2 podcasts. We did the AFC in one, NFC in the other. And now we're going to fill those needs for all those teams. So we're going to take the biggest need for every single team, give you one early round guy that fits that need, and one late round guy we like to fit that need. And so let's get right into it. Start off with the NFC East. NFC East champion, Dallas Cowboys. We said defensive end, probably their biggest need. One early round guy and I think would get there in the late 20s there is Jordan Willis out of Kansas State. Our highest graded edge guy a season ago. Blew up the combine, has some awkwardness in his game, but he just keeps winning. I think at that right defensive end position where they ask you not in Dallas not to play them around as much as just get after the passer, I think he's perfect. I think he has the skill set to beat left tackles in the NFL, and so I think that would be an ideal fit for them.
Yeah, the big question on him is how much of that athleticism he displayed at the combine actually translates to his game. Because when you watch him on film, there definitely looks to be a little bit of stiffness. But also you kind of wonder if maybe that's a product of the system at Kansas State, if they just wanted him to get straight up field a lot of the time, not so worried about turning the corner. So I think there's kind of an in-between there. But at that point, in the mid-20s, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, with the athletic upside, I 100% agree. Who would you have? So Steve was kind enough actually to leave us some good late-round fits. So these are going to come from Steve. Who do you have as this late-round fit?
We have Dwayne Smoot from Illinois, and I think this is a perfect one. I got to tell you, we had Smoot as heading into the 2016 college season as a potential top 10 pick because he was outstanding the year prior. Really, he was a big disappointment this past year. A lot of it stems from his apparent lackadaisicalness on run plays. He really just didn't seem to put forth the same effort, and but he still was very productive as a pass rusher. Didn't do a consistent job of finishing, but he got a lot of pressures again this year. And again, that's what we're looking for in Dallas ultimately. So even if he's just rotational player, that still works for Dallas. They can afford to have a guy like that.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about defensive end, it's not such a pressing need that they have to address it. So getting him in the third round would also be a nice pick. He's number 74 overall on our big board. Let's keep it moving to the Giants in that position, in that division, and definitely offensive tackle. By far the biggest need there. That's not even really a debate at this point. Eric Flowers, unless he has a complete turnaround to his career, which doesn't seem likely at this point, is in competition at left tackle. He might not even be starting next year. I gave them Garrett Bowles because I like the run scheme fit there. I'm not sure he's going to immediately be an upgrade in their pass protection, but I think he just fits exactly what they do, running a ton of power. I think they ran as much power as anyone in the NFL last year. He would be perfect for that, and he could play left or right tackle or even kick into guard. So I think that would be their ideal pick in the first round.
Well, let's be fair. You say you don't think he'll be an upgrade in the passing game potentially. It's going to be hard to be a downgrade. I
was going to say, not upgrading over Eric Flowers would be pretty hard to believe. So he probably still will be an upgrade there.
And for our late round pick, how about Robert Leff from Auburn? Gave up just 2 sacks, 2 hits. Obviously, he had the SEC schedule. He's got a big body. Not maybe the greatest athlete, but again, we're not talking about a top 50 pick here.
No, I like Leff because just what he can do from the run game perspective engages so well. He's going to be a work in progress in pass protection like pretty much every Auburn offensive tackle is. He could even kick into guard for them if they feel like keeping Fluker at tackle. So if they can get him in the 4th, 5th, he's 129th on our big board. I think that would be a win for them. On to the Redskins, where defensive line, I think, was their biggest need. No real first-rounder, though, that I would say fits perfectly on the defensive line. The great interior guys in this class, Solomon Thomas, Jonathan Allen, they just won't drop to 19th overall. So I think in the second round is where they end up addressing this. I think if they got someone like Jonathan Allen's teammate, Dalvin Tomlinson, in the second round, that would be a great fit. He can play pretty much anywhere up and down the line, which is nice versatility to have for that 3-4 sort of front that they run, this sort of hybrid stuff they do. I think Dalvin Tomlinson, super productive last year at Alabama, the overlooked man on that defensive front. If they get him in the second, that'd be a nice pick.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. And again, I like his versatility. You can do a bunch of different things with him on that line, depending on game situation. For the later round picks, how about Nazir Jones from North Carolina? He's not really what you want in terms of a pass rusher. That's why he's not going to go early. But he's a really instinctual run defender, seems to have a knack for just diagnosing schemes, and he's a really good tackler as well.
Yeah, he has great length, and like you said, could finish some plays along the defensive line they're going to be missing without Chris Baker. So they could use a run defender like him as well. Let's move on to the Eagles, where it was a unanimous decision that cornerback was by far their biggest need. And we've mocked them Tre'Davious White a handful of times, and I think even at 14, that's not really a reach. We have him 12th overall on our big board, I believe. We just like what he does from an aggressive standpoint. They just don't have that guy in their roster at this point, someone who can play press, someone who can do a number of different things. They just need talent at the position. So Tre'Davious White would be an ideal fit early round for them.
To me, as deep as this cornerback class is, there are two that really stand out. And one's obviously Marshawn Lattimore. Yes. And the other, to me, is Tre'Davious White. I think he really is that outstanding a player. He offers versatility.
12 pass breakups this last year.
Yeah, I mean, he's all over the place. I think you can do just about anything with him. I love that pick there. For a later round pick, how about Shaquille Griffin from Central Florida? That's
Sam's boy. Sam Monson's
Sam's boy, yeah. He blew up the combine, as did pretty much every corner. But he's a top athlete. He has good size. How about this? 39.7 completion percentage on throws into his coverage last year. That's pretty good. So, I mean, he's a guy that you think he can match with just about any receiver downfield with his size and athleticism. I think that's a great fit there.
I 100% agree. Let's go to the NFC West, where the Seahawks were your champions a season ago. And offensive line, pretty much anywhere on that offensive line is the biggest need. But I think they're set at center guard at this point with Mark Lewinsky, the center whose name's escaping me at the moment, Justin Britt, and I'm just all over the place. Jermaine Ifedi at right guard. So I think they're set there. Offensive tackle, though, they could address, and I've just said 100 times now that Garrett Bowles was meant to play for Tom Cable. It's just that's the perfect fit. He just is attacked so hard in the run game. Just in terms of what they do in that run game, he is everything you're looking for. He is the offensive tackle version of J.R. Sweezy. That one makes too much sense. I know someone like Forrest Lamp would also be a dream there. Just anyone with some skill on the offensive line would be nice. But I think Garrett Bowles, just in terms of fit, too perfect. So that would be their first round fit, in my opinion. Who do you have for a late round?
Yeah, for a late round, I have Daniel Brunskill from San Diego State. He's real light on his feet. He's a great fit for outside zone teams.
They're running a good deal of that.
Yeah, I think, again, when you're just talking about fit and value, I think he's a good pick for them.
I agree. All right, he's number 177 overall on our big board, so that's a late round, 5th, 6th type of guy there. On to the Cardinals, where we mentioned defensive line is the biggest need. Calais Campbell held that D-line together without much talent last year. They don't really have any sort of – they've allotted almost no draft picks, no cap to that defensive line at this point. If Jonathan Allen slips in the draft and he's there at number 13, slam dunk out of the park. If he slips with those shoulder injuries, he is everything that they want to replace Calais Campbell. I think that would be the ideal fit for them. No doubt in my mind about that one.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before we went on air, how there's going to be someone in that top 10 that we have that's going to fall. I kind of think it's going to be Jonathan Allen, and I love the fit there. I think he's an instant impact guy. Don't forget, they did draft Robert Kimdiche last year. Didn't get much out of him. Health was an issue. hopefully he takes the next step. But I think regardless of his development, where they think they are with him, they really need to take another guy. So Jonathan Allen would be a great pick for them. I also love Eddie Vanderdoes from UCLA in the mid-rounds. And that's a guy that, when you look at what he did in 2015, I mean, he is one of the true interior pass rushers in his class. Had some injury issues last year. Came into the Senior Bowl looking a little sloppy. But I think with...
a little is very kind.
Yes, I'm being kind. But I think when you look at his potential and what he has shown in the past, I think he's a potential huge steal on day 2, day 3.
Yeah, before he tore his ACL, I think it was an ACL, we were talking about him as first round, and even like top 15 type of first round. He was that good as a junior. Was still good as a senior, but obviously year removed from an ACL, I'm willing to forgive some stuff. And he had some reps at the Senior Bowl one-on-ones that were just guys at his weight shouldn't be able to do.
Right.
He does some things sometimes on tape that are just crazy. So you can get him in the second or the third if you're the Cardinals. I mean, the third would probably be unreal value for him. I just think if he didn't tear his ACL, I think he still would have been a first rounder. So that he's one of my favorite defensive linemen after the first round. And this one, let's move on to the Rams, where wide receiver we still think is a huge need for them, even though they've allotted so much money to that position, and they're just still not getting results. I don't think right there at the top of the first round in the top 10 there is going to be great value for a wide receiver. So I went to the top of the second round and think Zay Jones would be a great fit for them.
Yeah. Well, of course, they also don't have the first round pick. That's worth mentioning. Zay Jones can really do it all. Obviously, he put up ungodly numbers in East Carolina's system, but then he goes to the Senior Bowl, and he looks like one of the most polished guys there. He's consistently beating press coverage. He's running great routes. He's catching the ball. He can do everything, and I think he's a perfect fit in the second round for them. We also like Mac Hollins as a later round pick. I have a feeling we're probably a little bit higher on him than the league may be, but still, I mean, he made so many huge plays at UNC. He's got speed to burn. Ultimately, you have to give your young QB as much help as possible. Obviously, that started with a different direction in coaching. That's a big part of it.
Yes.
But it's got to be his skill talent as well. So I think getting guys like Mac Hollins later, it would be huge for them.
Yeah, Tavon Austin and Robert Woods is not scaring anybody at this point.
No,
and as far as even downfield threats, Tavon Austin's not scaring anyone at this point. They just need someone to challenge downfield. Mac Hollins would be that guy, so I would love that pick for them in the third, fourth, something like that. Move on to the 49ers, where we universally agreed that quarterback was their biggest need. Pretty much anywhere is a good need for them. But quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky, number one on our board. If they're picking number 2 overall, I think the number 1 guy on our board would be the best fit for them. So that one's, to us, no brainer. I've heard reports, though, that Deshaun Watson might be the guy. I think Greg Gabriel said today Deshaun Watson is the guy for them. I know Greg says a lot of stuff, though. But who do you have as a late-round fit for the 49ers?
How about Nathan Peterman from Pitt? To me, you have that top tier of 2 or 3 guys. Certainly Watson, Trubisky are in there. I like Mahomes, too. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But in that next tier of guys, kind of that 3rd, 4th round range, I think Nathan Peterman is an interesting talent. Because I think at least, and we got into a bit of a heated debate, and you and I were on the same side of this earlier this week, where I think
he's got a high floor.
He's at least a high-level backup. And if you're talking 3rd, 4th round...
Because he's accurate. Because he's accuracy in the middle, in the intermediate range, can keep you as a backup in the league for the next 10 years.
And when you're looking at the quarterback position, accuracy to me is always number 1. I don't care how brilliant you are. I don't care how athletic you are. If you can't hit the broadside of a barn, then you're not going to play in the NFL. And Peterman's accurate. He made huge strides this past year. I think he'd be a great pick for them.
He's very, in my opinion, Kirk Cousins-y. I think Kirk Cousins is an sort of a comp for him. So going to the 49ers, going to Shanahan, who mentored Cousins early in his career, I think that'd be a good fit as well. On to the NFC North, where I've said this a million times over the past week when I drafted for the Packers and then gave them Marlon Humphrey. I said I think that ends up being the pick for them, the cornerback out of Alabama. I just think he checks so many boxes for them in terms of the size, the speed, the athleticism, the ability to press, the ability to play zone, and some production. I know he got beat deep a good amount, but not nearly as much as the Packers corners did last year. So I'm a fan of him. I think when it's all said and done, that has a good chance of being the pick. Who do you have as a mid to late rounder for them?
A guy that's not getting a lot of play. How about Jack Tacho from North Carolina State? Measured in at 6 foot 202, so he's got that size you love. Went toe-to-toe with Mike Williams. Yes, he gave up a bunch of receptions, but at the same time, he was right there with him, didn't give up any really huge plays against him. That's a guy that can potentially match up on a guy up and down the field because of his size and athleticism. I think that'd be a solid mid-round pick for them.
Crazy, too, to me that he's not getting hyped because the name, Tacho. That's like first-round type, the last name. He should be moving up draft boards. We have him number 171 on our draft board, so that'd be a good fit for the Packers late rounds.
Victim of the depth at the position, for sure.
On to the Lions, where linebacker is 100% in need. Ever since DeAndre Levy went out, it's just been a nightmare for them in the middle of the field. Last year especially so. I think Hassan Reddick, I think you agree, would be so ideal for them. Is similar, almost a DeAndre Levy clone in what he can do. I think if he falls to them, I think there's almost no chance they pass on him.
Yeah, as the Lions general manager in our huge 7-round mock we did this past week, I was trying to move up a few spots to take Reddick. Ended up holding Pat, and he did somehow fall to me and jumped all over it. I just think he's an obvious guy. They don't have any real speed explosiveness coming off the edge.
And that too, that's what I was going to mention. If you can drop him down on third downs, that's also a thing because getting anyone across from Ziggy Ansah right now would be also huge.
Exactly, and getting someone that kind of contrasts that power style would be huge for them as well. One of the main issues they had at linebacker this past year was coverage. Whitehead was really one of the worst, if not the worst, coverage linebacker in the league by every statistical measure we have. So that's why I really like, as a mid-late round pick, Jayon Brown from UCLA. Not a big kid. He played inside at UCLA, probably has to play outside at the next level. Not certain how he's going to play in the run if his production he had at UCLA, which he did, if that's going to translate to the next level in the run game. But he was outstanding against the pass, real instinctive, physical, aggressive, covers a lot of ground, moves like a safety, even though you look at his combine times, there's nothing special. I just think his playing speed in coverage is so much better than his time speed that he's really worth a mid-round pick.
Yeah, I thought he'd do better at the combine for the things you mentioned. He's just so fluid, though, in his hips and his turns down the field. I think he's going to be good in coverage at the NFL level, and we have him 173 overall on our big board. On to the Vikings, who we said safety was probably their biggest need. Someone across from Hayseed, Harrison Smith. We haven't loved Andrew Sendejo ever since. I know he signed a contract. I think it was before last season, signed a little extension there, but they could still upgrade over him. And second round, if Budda Baker is there, I think that's a perfect complement to Harrison Smith. He can do. He's what's his face again? He's a clone of Antoine Winfield for them. He can play the slot. He can play basically anywhere you want as a safety. Even you worry about him at 5'9", holding up with injury concerns, but man, he's so talented in coverage, playing the run. I think that'd be a great fit.
The other thing I worry about with him is him being 5'9" and him holding up against bigger receivers. I think that was an issue pretty consistently on film. But that being said, them having the other guy, they can kind of scheme around that. And I think that's a really good fit for Budda Baker. And I think they'd be able to kind of let him loose and do his thing there. Another guy that I really love for the Vikings is Xavier Woods from Louisiana Tech. He's a guy I looked at rather late in the process, but really impressive to me. Not a great tackler. That's something he's going to have to fix. He tends to come up way too aggressively and miss at times, but he is a very skilled coverage defender. He's instinctual. He can play man. He can play off the ball and close and play center field. I think he offers some versatility there in terms of that coverage package. Again, with Harrison Smith next to him, I think that's a great match. I mean, look, let's be realistic. Harrison Smith's had some injury issues. And if you look at the downfalls of Minnesota the last couple of years, oftentimes it's when Harrison Smith's gone down because he's really the linchpin of that defense. So even if he's not the guy next to him, he's the guy filling in if there's more injury issues. I think that's really critical to get.
Yeah, and we're definitely higher. We're definitely higher in Woodson, probably most, at having him 77th overall on our big board. On to the last place team in the NFC North a season ago, Chicago Bears. Marshawn Lattimore at number 3 to me. We had corner as their biggest need. Marshawn Lattimore, no brainer. No real reason to even talk about that. If he's there, I think it has to be the pick if they don't go quarterback. So who do you have as a late rounder for them?
I have Channing Stribling from Michigan. He's a guy that he's going to fall later just because he ran 4.60 and his class is so deep. But what he did at Michigan this past year was extremely impressive. Just a really good guy in press coverage. He challenges at catch point. I think he had 14 total pass breakups this past season. He's got huge length, size. Needs to bulk up a little bit. Needs to get better against the run. But I think in terms of man coverage, boy, that's a guy you really want.
I was gonna say, I think man coverage corners who come out and are undersized always get drop down boards because guys are worried about, hey, you're playing man coverage. Even if they're successful in college, you still need some sort of size or speed to hold up at the position in the NFL. But I think he can fill. He has the frame definitely to fill out more, and you just can't teach his ball skills. And I love that he's already been as successful as he has in man coverage. So might not right away be a sort of impact player, but I think down the line, the Bears just need talent in the system. He has a lot of talent for a mid to late rounder, 138th on our big board. On to the NFC South, Atlanta Falcons, Super Bowl representatives from the NFC. We gave them at the bottom of the first round Malik McDowell in our mock last week. I think Khaled gave him that. I think that's a great fit. Across from Vic Beasley, can play the base end, can kick inside, allow you to bring in, if Dwight Freeney does come back, rush from the outside. That would be just so ideal for them. I love Malik McDowell. I think he's a top 10 talent in this draft in terms of what he can do at only 20 years old. What he will do in the NFL, I have no clue at this point. He's kind of a wild card with how inconsistent he was at Michigan State, but that just makes too much sense for me. And who'd you give him as a late round edge?
How about Dietrich Wise from Arkansas?
Love Wise.
He's a guy that, again, a lot of versatility in terms of being able to work inside and outside.
And I think that's what they would need.
Yes, I think that's huge. Again, it's kind of the opposite of what Detroit has, right? Mm-hmm. So Detroit has the power end that they probably don't use Ziggy inside as much as they should, but still, they've got the power end. And they need the speed guy, which Reddick would be for them. But in Atlanta's case, they have the speed guy in Beasley.
Give him a power.
They really don't have the power guy, and Wise would be perfect for them.
Yeah, Wise played a lot of 5-tech at Arkansas, but I think he's ultimately an edge on the next level, at least on rundowns, he killed guards in college on the inside as a pass rusher. I think that's
not with the trident
where he wants. On to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where safety is their biggest need. They could also go tackle, but we settled on safety. And no real guy at 19 that I'd say. It's still a reach to me for someone like Obi Melifonwu. It's a little too high for me. So gave him second round. We went Justin Evans, Texas A&M safety, sort of a guy. He can play center field, which is what I like. They play a ton of cover 3, Tampa Bay. And you don't want Chris Conte playing your center field. That's for damn sure. So Justin Evans, not a great tackler, but if you're playing the center field role, you're not going to be in nearly as many tackles as you would in the box. Those tackles do make a little more high pressure situations. Those lead to big rounds if you're missing them as the deep center field safety. But I think he has the sort of ability to curb that. Was just so out of control at times, Texas A&M, but you can't really teach what he can do from a coverage perspective. Still graded out extremely well for us. So second or third round, Evans would be a great pick for them. Who'd you have as a late round safety for them?
One of our favorite guys all year, and probably the single most productive safety in all of college football last year. That's Tedrick Thompson from Colorado. Not very active in the run game, kind of the opposite of your guy in the second round, and where he just doesn't get involved. Your guy gets overly involved and is overly aggressive with that. Thompson doesn't get so much involved with that, but you can do anything with him in coverage. I mean, Colorado loved to put him in the slot, and he was dominant there. He had a 2-game stretch where he gave up something like 2 receptions on 22 targets against, and it was all in the slot. So it was all basically man coverage. So you can play him there. You can play him back on the deep end, playing center field, even though he doesn't have quite the same speed as some of the other guys. 7 interceptions, 7 pass breakups last year. he was outstanding in Colorado, and I think he's going to be a hell of a player at the next level, too.
And I think the Buccaneers are in luck in this draft because second and third round is going to be loaded with safety talent.
Oh, it's perfect.
You're going to be able to find a starter for sure there right away. So that would be T.J. Thompson also would be a great fit for them. On to New Orleans, where pretty much anywhere on defense could be addressed, but we said linebacker. So Reuben Foster, who God knows what's going to happen with him at this point.
Yeah.
You can't test positive for weed at the combine, or diluted test at the combine, which is the same as a positive in the NFL's eyes, it seems. You can't fight a guy at the combine who was supposed to be, helping you through tests or helping you through whatever medical checks, and you can't fail a medical check when you come back. It's just he's ticking all the wrong boxes in this pre-draft process. He might be there at 32 when they're picking. So I think Reuben Foster, while would be a monstrous upgrade for them, and why I think it's a good early round fit, it doesn't seem like it's going to happen anymore at this point. So who do you have for late, though?
Yeah, well, at 32, I think that would make sense, even without that. I think at that point he's worth that gamble. The guy I have for the late round pick, though, is Anthony Walker out of Northwestern. I was a little disappointed in his play this year. I didn't really think he progressed like I thought he was capable of. He's definitely a top athlete, which means he can play against the run, play in coverage as well. Again, not a great tackler, not always the most instinctive guy, but you have kind of a moldable piece of clay there. And again, we're not talking about spending a first, second round pick on a guy. We're talking, fifth round range.
158th on our big board. So
yes, there you go, fifth round.
I agree. Just adding some sort of athleticism to linebacking core that has Manti Te'o would be nice at this point. So definitely that for them. On to the last team in the NFC, Carolina Panthers. Wide receiver, I would say, is their biggest need at this point. I don't think Kelvin Benjamin's a true number one receiver. And then after that, you just have a lot of guys there that aren't anything special. Obviously, Greg Olsen's probably the featured player in that receiving core, but they need someone, in my opinion, to stretch down the field because they have a bunch of slow guys at this point. Greg Olsen's probably their fastest receiver, and I would love for them to get John Ross in the first round. I think 8 is not too high for him. Ridiculous deep speed, obviously. Broke the combine record. I just think he would be a better Ted Ginn with hands, which is like 8 more touchdowns over the last 2 years if Ted Ginn wasn't dropping all his balls. So that, to me, ideal fit. Who'd you have for late round fit?
I have Josh Reynolds from Texas A&M. He's a guy we've been high on throughout the process. Our A&M guy, Vinny, he loves him, and I think there's good reason to. I think he can do a lot of different things, certainly stretch the field, certainly has speed, and he's got a little more size, I think, than John Ross has.
Yes.
And not quite the medical history either.
And you need Cam Newton needs guys to go up and get it at times, and Reynolds can certainly do that. 37-inch vertical at almost 6'3", so that's...
Well, and especially when you have a guy like Cam Newton that can extend plays like he can, having the guy that can break off his route and just get vertical on somebody in an instant, that's a guy they need. And so both those guys, really good fits for that.
All right, on to the AFC, where the New England Patriots were your Super Bowl champions a season ago, and we've tagged an edge rusher as their biggest need. Lost Jabal Sheard this offseason, and I'm going to give a name who could still be there at the end of the second round, which would be absolutely crazy to me with how talented he is, but his off-the-field stuff's just 100% going to push him down at this point. Tim Williams, edge rusher out of Alabama. If he went there, that would be ultimate Patriots. Just getting a steal of a player at the bottom of the second round, and he might end up being there with all his baggage, so to speak. I don't know if they can turn him around in terms of that sort of off-the-field issues, if they can get his head on straight, but he has as much talent as any edge in this class after Myles Garrett. I'm a fan, but the off-field stuff does scare me. Still, though, I think that's a good fit for the Patriots and what they do.
Oh, I think it is, and kind of the theme with that works for a later round pick. I have Trey Hendrickson from Florida Atlantic.
Yep.
Again, the Patriots are so deep all over the place that they can get a guy that's very specialized in one particular thing. So pass rushers like Williams, like Hendrickson, who graded off the charts for us this year, may not be ready to do everything for them. But if all I need him to do is rush the passer, I think he's going to be able to do it for him.
He can. And the crazy thing about Hendrickson and why he's getting more hype is that he's raw still at this point. He was beating guys with just his athleticism and freak athlete, and just didn't have refined hands yet. If you can coach him up to be better with his hands, have a fuller repertoire there of pass rushing moves on the edge, he could legitimately be a long-term starter in the NFL. 69th on our big board, but he could go, I'd say, 4th round at this point, 5th round, with how little hype I've seen him get. So that would be a great fit for them. On to the Dolphins, where guard is their biggest need. I know Jermon Bushrod may have graded out as the highest graded player for the Dolphins last year in terms of their metrics, but he was terrible. I have no qualms saying that. He was a liability at the guard position, and they now need to upgrade both guard positions with last year's first-round pick kicking out to tackle, whose name is Laramie Tunsil.
Laramie Tunsil, yeah.
Blanking on a lot of names today. Laramie Tunsil kicking out the tackle. So
it's Saturday.
Dan Feeney, I think, obviously I wouldn't, if I was them, attack guard in the first round with some other needs there. But Dan Feeney in the second, if he's there, I'm a fan of him. And he ran a good deal of outside zone at Indiana. That's what the Dolphins did. Ran more outside zone last year than anyone but the Bears, I believe. So logical fit there. Also, huge upgrade in pass protection already. He's maybe the best pass protecting guard after Forrest Lamp in this class. I'm a fan. Middle of the second, if they can get him, would be a nice pick for them.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer pick for them. I know there's some medical issues out there with Feeney that are unresolved, at least from our perspective, which, quite honestly, if you look at his production at guard, it's really first-round worthy. He was really that outstanding the last couple of years when he was playing guard. Had to end last season at Indiana playing some tackle after coming off his own injury because of other injuries on that line. But another guy who would be kind of a mid-round pick for them, Dorian Johnson from Pitt. He's big and strong. He gets good movement off the line of scrimmage. Again, they have those other positions figured out. So I think I'm not so worried about him not having the full athletic profile. The fact that he can be a factor in that run game, I think, would be a solid upgrade for them.
I agree. He can move a little too. Like I said, they need a guard that can play on the move. Jermon Bushrod wasn't that guy, so they just need some sort of talent at the position. He's 146th on our big board. On to the Bills, where we've addressed corner as their biggest need after they lost Stephon Gilmore to the Patriots. And they might be moving to more, they played a ton of man last year, might be moving more to a zone-heavy scheme under Sean McDermott, who last year with the Panthers played more zone than any other team in the NFL. And one guy I like in that is Cordrea Tankersley. And what I like about Cordrea Tankersley is he's a big physical corner who you can play matchups with if you have him and Ronald Darby. Darby, this smaller speed guy, move him around with whoever, do the Patriots type of thing where you keep Darby on the smaller receiver for the other team, keep Tankersley on the bigger receiver for the other team, and they're always in favorable type of position. So that, to me, if they can get him at the top of the second round, obviously the first round's crazy for his type of value, but he'll likely be there at the top of the second. That would be a great fit for them.
Yeah, I'm a huge Tankersley fan. We talked about who we think the top two corners are. Really, to me, I might argue that Tankersley is number 3. So I love the value for that if that happens. I'm a big fan of his. But you talked about McDermott running a lot of zone, and that's why Corn Elder fits as well. 3rd, 4th round range, most likely. He's an excellent tackler, was really good in zone. Again, he has size, speed, has all that put together to really fit that system well.
And Bills are in luck. Deep cornerback class.
Yes, no question.
So, on to the New York Jets, where we put quarterback as the biggest need. Another team where you could throw 10 other positions as their biggest need. But cornerback most valuable, they don't have one. Christian Hackenberg, not gonna be the quarterback of the future, in our opinion. And the best fit for them, I basically just said take your pick. They don't need a guy to step in and be great right away. They need someone to be good in 3 years. So anyone who's there who you think will be good in 3 years, that's who they should pick.
Yeah, and I think there's things to really like about all 3 of those top guys, which we've already talked about. So I think that makes sense.
And the other thing I was going to mention was that coaching staff, Todd Bowles, not going to be there in 3 years.
I think that's fair to say.
Not going to be there in 1 year, as I would just guess. He seems like a lame duck at this point with how much talent that roster has.
It's really them and San Francisco are the most talent-deprived rosters. Obviously, San Fran has already flipped theirs. Their situation there with front office and coach. But this is an interesting one for the mid-round pick because this is a guy that we're still kind of holding steady that we think should and will be a mid-round pick as opposed to a late first. But he's gotten some of that buzz for some reason. That's Davis Webb from Cal. I see the physical skill set that makes him intriguing in terms of a mid-round guy. Yeah, that's totally a guy you gamble on in the third, fourth round. I totally get that. But if he does somehow go late first, whether it be Houston or someone trading up, that's a reach to me.
Whew. Yeah, we're not advocating for him at the top of the second, we're saying.
No.
Top of the third even seems rich for him, but like he's 195th on our big board. If they could get him, if he does do the Ryan Nassib type of everyone was pumping him up and then all of a sudden, oh wait, no, the NFL actually did hate him type of fall, then we'd think about him as a mid-rounder for the Jets. On to the Kansas City Chiefs, where another team where we put quarterback as their biggest need. And I feel comfortable saying that's probably the case. Alex Smith just so limited in what he does. And with that roster, with not having many other positions that need to be addressed, I think they could legitimately give someone to Andy Reid in either the first or the second round to develop for a year down the line, 2 years down the line, to be the guy. And I put Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to tell me that he's not going to be there when they're picking at 26. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any way he's going to end up being there. I think when you look at Cleveland having a second pick in the first round, and they're likely not to go quarterback with the first overall pick, Arizona right behind them fits scheme perfectly. I just don't think he's going to be there. But a mid-round guy that makes sense for them. How about Josh Dobbs from Tennessee? I think he was undercoached at Tennessee, to be honest. I don't know that we've really seen his full skill set. Wasn't always accurate. He's big, has some athleticism. I think he's capable of improving and potentially being a better pro than he was a college player.
And we had Dobbs actually ahead of Davis Webb on our board, 194th overall, just one spot ahead. So
and from everything I've heard and seen, he just seems like the type of kid you want in your locker room that's going to work hard, that really relates to everybody well. So in terms of mid-late round quarterback, I think he's a really nice guy to have.
Definitely agree on that point. On to the Oakland Raiders, where linebacker has been pegged as their biggest need. They might not go linebacker first round because they could go a number of positions on defense, and I'm not sure if the value at linebacker is the best. But I would say if they do go, it's probably someone like Jared Davis out of Florida. Just so explosive, can do a lot of different things. Very raw at this point, though. But that to me would be the least reachy pick that you could do at linebacker at 24, unless obviously Reuben Foster falls to them.
Yeah, I would say the same thing about Zach Cunningham of Vanderbilt. He could be in that mix as well. But yeah, I like him a lot there. If you're listening to this podcast and you're saying, okay, I want to go back and watch some film, maybe you're using Draft Breakdown, don't watch the Alabama game. Do not watch that game. He came back injured way too early from that. It was obvious on film from the rest of it. He was just a mess that game compared to the rest of the year. Watch all the other games. That's more indicative of the kind of player he is. But in terms of a mid-round pick, I'm going to double dip here. I'm going to say Jayon Brown's a great fit for them.
Yep, coverage.
Yes, exactly. And Malcolm Smith, no longer there. He was not good at all for them in coverage last year. He was every bit the liability that Tahir Whitehead was for Detroit. Again, it's not worth rehashing everything on Jayon Brown, but needing a coverage backer, that's the guy.
That's a good mid to late rounder, yes. On to the Denver Broncos, who need offensive tackles. They might need two of them in this draft, to be honest. Losing Russell Okung to the Chargers, contemplating moving Donald Stevenson to the left side, and absolutely murdering Trevor Siemian, possibly. We're going to give them Ryan Ramczyk in the first round, and we've continually given him that because he's the top tackle on our board, and we just think that's about where the value meets the fit. And the thing is, I'm not sure he makes it there. I think someone's going to fall in love with him because he has all the traits in the world to play offensive tackle at the next level. Only 1 year in the FBS, though. So that's the only worrisome thing. Is he going to be able to continue to improve? We'll see. I like the fit, though. Who's a late-round tackle they could get?
Connor McDermott from UCLA still really has to improve his core strength, get his strength to catch up with his body.
Oh, my Lord, does he? Yeah. Watch Myles Garrett just walk him back into a quarterback 10 times first game of the year, and that becomes evident.
Yeah, but I mean, he came into college so underweight, so really he's still trying to grow into his body. Mm-hmm. So you see that kind of athleticism he has there, and you think a couple years down the road, he could end up potentially being a really solid pick.
Yep. He reminds me of Kyle Murphy from a season ago from Stanford. They're very similar in that they were both just terribly, terribly under. Just no strength for the position, but can move like offensive tackles in the pros. We'll see if either of them develop into that. But I like the fit for Denver. Onto the Chargers, where we've identified safety as their biggest need, and it bears almost no repeating at this point. But Malik Hooker, perfect fit for Gus Bradley's defense. Every single mock we've done, he's gone there. So no surprise to you guys. What's a late round safety for them, though?
Yep. Again, I'm going to double dip here. I'm cheating a little bit. I know. I'm blame Steve though.
There's only so many good mid round hits.
We're going to go with Xavier Woods again.
Yes.
Again, I want guys with elite coverage skills, and I really think Xavier Woods has a chance to be a very early starter because of what he can do in coverage. I think he can figure the other stuff out. Obviously, it needs work, but what he can do on the back end is really excellent, and I think he'd be a great pick.
Agreed there. Onto the AFC North, where your Steelers were the champions a season ago, and edge, still their biggest need. I've said enough that Bud Dupree I don't think is ever going to develop into a guy, and even if he does, James Harrison will not be able to play forever. He might be able to play till he's 40, but still not going to last forever.
The league's going to fold in 20 years. It's going to be two players. It's going to be him and Tom Brady, and that's it.
He's still a monster, still easily their best edge rusher. And if he's going to be around next year, I want to draft Carl Lawson so that James Harrison can tutor him, because Lawson has a lot of the same traits that Harrison does in terms of just pure raw strength in his frame. I think he did 35 reps at the combine, was the most of any D-line there. Ridiculous pop in his punch, but super inconsistent in terms of his ability to play the run. Only made 15 tackles all last year, which is like crazy low for a defensive lineman. Mm-hmm. That's worrisome. Get James Harrison to tutor him. I think that's a perfect, would be great for them at the end of the first round, though.
Help him work on finishing as well. That would be big for him as well. Speaking of tutoring, how about tutoring Samson Ebukam from Eastern Washington? When we went back and did Eastern Washington's film really explicitly for Cooper Kupp, who we love as well, we were shocked at how good Samson Ebukam was. He was constantly flashing on every single game. And I think in terms of just a raw skill set, but explosive speed off the edge.
I think like a 4.5.
Yeah, and it shows on film. Even at that level, it really shows on film. I think the sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah, 141st on our big board. And like you said, just traits that you can't really teach.
I don't know that. We might have him a little too low. He might need to be higher.
Yeah, he may go in the mid-rounds, third, fourth, something like that, with how freakish his athletic profile is. All right, on to the Baltimore Ravens, who also need an edge. Very similar situation that Elvis Dumerville's gone. Terrell Suggs is not getting any younger. Multiple Achilles injuries at this point. He may not have forever left in him. Derek Barnett, I think, is a perfect fit. I think he'll be there just from everything we've seen at 16. Very similar to Terrell Suggs in that he can play with power, he can play the run, he can play the pass. Would be a great transition for them. They don't really seem to care, the Ravens, about athleticism for their edge players when they draft them. They drafted Pernell McPhee and made him into one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. I think they could do a similar thing to Derek Barnett. So I would be ecstatic if I was a Ravens fan. They got him.
Yeah, Suggs himself didn't have a great combine when he came out way back in the day. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Another guy, absolute power player, Terrell Basham from Ohio.
Yep, that one.
Appropriate last name again.
It really
I don't know how he's not a first-round pick with that last name, but just a good fit in terms of that power edge player who's going to be able to translate, play the run, as well as rush the passer at next level. I love that pick.
On to the Cincinnati Bengals, who we put tackle as their biggest need. Mm-hmm. They obviously have Jake Fisher, and they have Cedric Boyhe, who are first and first round picks respectively, going to be filling the tackle positions next year, but neither of them have shown any sort of promise at this point. So I'll say Taylor Mouton, who will probably go at the top of the second round. He can play guard or tackle, so you can get him some PT right away. I think that would be a great fit for them, because I don't think at number 9 overall there will be any sort of value at the tackle position that would be so much that they need to address it. So,
yeah, I think so. And ultimately, you do want to give those young guys a chance to develop, but getting them some competition.
Yeah.
Mouton, again, makes sense because you can play him inside at guard right away. Eric Smith, that's a guy that's in the later rounds would also be a nice pickup. Light, quick on his feet. He's got a good punch. Again, that's a guy I want kind of swinging between either tackle side. Going to give those two competition.
On to the Browns, where anywhere in the secondary we thought was their biggest need. Obviously have a handful. Myles Garrett's going to address edge most likely if they do go him number 1 overall. Number 12, we didn't think the value was there for a cornerback or likely a safety with Jamal Adams and Malik Hooker off the board. So I went top of the second round. I think if they can get Teez Tabor there, I think they'll be able to get Teez Tabor there, but it feels like a very Brownsian pick to get a guy who was just crazy productive in college over what we've seen them draft the past couple of years with their sort of analytic style. Have been drafting a lot of productive college players whose measurables might not be amazing. Teez Tabor is that guy. Obviously, running a 4.7 40 is not ideal for the position, but it didn't show up enough on tape to think that he still couldn't be productive in maybe a slot role in the NFL, and I think he's still a talented player. So top second Teez.
Yep, I like that. And I also like Nathan Gary, the safety from Nebraska. Talk about just needing the secondary as a whole. Mm-hmm. But they like to play a lot of too high, and I think that's where Gary really fits. Again, not a top athlete, but he really was a top performer. If I had a vote for Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, Gary would have been it. He really was all over the place. Do you want him in man coverage? No. You don't.
You don't want most safeties man coverage, to be fair.
Well, that's true. Yeah. That's true. I mean, this is a unique year in terms of that. But in terms of ability to play the run, instincts on anything coming forward, run or pass, he's outstanding. He's going to make a lot of big plays. He'll make some picks. He can do everything for you back there. He's that classic under athletic but overperforming player that I think is going to be a long-term starter in the right system in the NFL.
Agreed. On to our last division, the AFC South. Texans were your champions. We said quarterback's their biggest need. Not really a debate there with Tom Savage heading into the year at this point as their starter. And this one gets hard to identify a guy. 1, because I don't know where quarterbacks are going to fall in this class. 2, because at 25 overall, is there going to be any sort of value at the quarterback position? Are you going to be banking on this guy to step in and start right away? I think the only guy who could logically fall there and could step in and start right away is Deshaun Watson. But like I said, that's a pipe dream for him to get there at this point. I mentioned Greg Gabriel said that he's the guy for the 49ers earlier, which is number 2 overall. So that's like how I feel about the quarterback class, the fact that Deshaun Watson could go to 25 or he could go to 2. So I'm not sure where he falls, but the Texans, they need to address quarterback somewhere.
Yeah, quarterback is tough, too, as you get later. We've kind of talked about that. The talent level really drops off. How about real late? How about 6th, 7th round, we're looking at C.J. Beathard from Iowa. He's a guy that, because of that system, I don't think we ever really fully saw what he was capable of. I think we saw glimpses in 2015. Mm-hmm. He's a much better athlete than I think people realize, and I think that's something that wasn't utilized properly this last year at Iowa. Obviously, the Beathard name, he has an NFL pedigree, and in terms of a guy that could potentially step in a pinch, I don't think the situations are going to be too big for him. So that is a guy that could potentially, again, we said about a couple other guys, be a better pro than he was a college player.
And realistically, though, if you're the Texans, it's got to come through free agency quarterback at this point. It just has to, if you're talking about this next season. So,
which is rough because they're a contender if they have that position. Unfortunately,
it's going to be Jay Cutler.
Yeah. It's
unfortunate story, guys.
I don't think they have a choice.
On to the Tennessee Titans, where wide receiver, their biggest need. And I like Corey Davis, number 5 overall. I think that he's just that good, in my opinion. He is a number 1 receiver in the NFL. I just think he has all the skill set to be. So, Corey Davis, number 5 overall. I'd be happy with it if I'm a Titans fan.
Yep. I had the Titans in the 7th-round mock as well. That's exactly where I went at number 5. Isaiah Ford, Virginia Tech. That's a mid-round guy that I would target if I were them. Another guy, he has the body type, the ability to come down with those contested catches, and a quarterback like Mariota that can, do some improvisation. That's a guy that I want for them.
Ford made a ridiculous catch week 1 in one of the games I was doing. I can't remember who it was against, but I've been a fan ever since. When it was one of the best catches I saw all season. Let's go to the Colts, where again, just defense is their biggest need, but we said the linebacker is what we settled upon. And another guy, I'm going to repeat a name here, and it's Reuben Foster. Anyone in that 10 to 15 range that needs a linebacker, Reuben Foster would be the guy. Don't know where he's going to go at this point, but who did you have as a mid to late rounder, or did we screw this one up?
No, I can adjust on the fly.
I was going to say we went just all defense, and I put down a linebacker for the early and then a corner for the late. So give us the corner for the late because they need both.
They really do. I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's by far the least talented team from top to bottom in that division, in a division that's not been good for a while, but I think it's starting to turn the corner. I like Jordan Lewis for them. He's not going to go anywhere near.
I was going to say, we have him 24th on our board, but he's going.
No, we fully understand that. Part of that's off field, part of that's because he's 5'10 flat. Mm-hmm. But what he was able to do consistently these last 2 years at Michigan in man coverage, in press, on contested balls was outstanding, especially for his size. Those ball skills you just don't see anywhere else. And I think he's completely worth wherever he ends up getting picked, assuming the off-field pans out in his favor and doesn't become a bigger issue. We really don't have a resolution to that. But I just think he's a great fit for their system.
I agree. Lewis just feels like the classic guy who goes mid-second and a quality starter for a handful of years in the league. On to the Jaguars, who another team where I truthfully struggled to come up with large needs. I think everyone's saying that number 4 overall pick is one of the ones where no one really knows who to slot in for them. Mm-hmm. And I put quarterback as their biggest need because legitimately, Blake Bortles at his current level is their biggest liability at this point. Last season was awful, and there's no sugarcoating it. If he gets back to the second year form, it's not nearly as much of a need, but he still wasn't, top 10, top 15 type of quarterback even then. So he's really going to have to turn around his career in year 4. I don't think it's so big of a need, though, that you address it at number 4 overall. They could, but I put here just which one of those 4 top guys falls to the top of round 2. If one of them does, that's who I'd go with as their pick.
I think that's most likely going to be Kaiser. Mm-hmm. I think the other 3, in my opinion, are probably going to go in the top 15, top 16 picks. And normally that's kind of what happens at quarterback. But Kaiser, there's definitely a potential that he could be there in the second round. A little bit later, you can probably get Brad Kaya from Miami. And you think about some of the things that Bortles doesn't do well in terms of consistency with his footwork and balance. Those are things that Brad Kaya does do well. Mm-hmm. And so he comes in with that in place already. I think he might potentially offer you something that Bortles doesn't have. And we'll see if he can develop more so on everything else than he did at Miami.
Yes, he was getting a lot of hype. Preseason did not have a great year this past year, but there's something to work with there. That is it. Those were all the teams, all their biggest needs, early and late round. Let's move on to some segments, though. We're not going to do a scouting term this week because that's Steve's baby, or now his wife Kelly's baby at this point. That's their thing. So we're going to move right into risers and fallers. some of the guys we've seen recently who are rising and falling, I'm going to kick it off. Rewatched all the running backs again this week because I wanted to really see if some of these guys were first rounders. The guy that I kept going back to who was impressing me the most was Joe Mixon, the Oklahoma running back. He probably won't go in the first round, obviously. The off-field punching a chick, not a good look. But, man, he makes some cuts. To me, he was Melvin Gordon. He reminded me a lot of Melvin Gordon, except for he is 15 pounds heavier. He moves the exact same way, but is 15 pounds heavier, which is just – that's scary. That's scary once you get to the NFL. He has that sort of elite running back talent. Someone's just going to get a really good player far lower down than where he would have gone without the off-field stuff. And the thing is, he's still going to get drafted highly.
I think he's going to go second round. Yeah. I do. I think his stuff's been out there long enough. The NFL has kind of tested the waters enough on that to where he'll be right or wrong will be accepted as a second round pick. One of the other things, real quick, I like on him too. Everyone talks about Christian McCaffrey and what he brings in the passing game. Mixon can do that too, man.
Yeah.
He can run routes that he just blows by guys when he does wheels out of the backfield, and he's done a lot of it at Oklahoma. I think that's a huge plus to his game.
He is, to me, he's one of the top 3 backs in this class, right? If not neck and neck for the number 1 position at this point.
I can't argue with that. Strictly on the field, I can't argue with that one bit. You wanted me to go to my riser next?
I'll go my faller.
Okay.
Because I'm sick of the running back position here with my faller. Perfect. And it's a guy who's actually fairly similar in what he can do to Joe Mixon, but I'm not sure it's going to work out nearly as well at the next level, and it's Alvin Kamara, the Tennessee running back, because it's about 20 pounds lighter than Mixon and just dies on contact way too much for my liking. Mixon, when he blew through the line and a hand got on him, it didn't slow him down. Kamara hand gets on him. He'll break tackles, yes, but it costs him a lot of speed. Would go down way too early on some arm tackles going through the line that I didn't think he should have gone down on. He'll break tackles in space, can run some routes well, which is nice. But if talking about a guy who I want to be as my featured running back at this point, I'm not sure he's going to be that guy at the next level, which that then pushes you down my board quite a bit.
You know what? I'm glad to hear you say that. You'll probably be fighting Ben Stockwell to his grave on that because Ben is a huge fan of him. But I'm with you 100%. I just don't think between the tackles he's a consistent tackle breaker. And again, he doesn't have the body type for that. I don't think his true explosion until he gets into the open field is really at the level that some people are making it out to be. Switching gears, going into my risers and fallers. I focused a lot on safeties and linebackers this year, so there's a lot of big-name guys that I'm just getting to now that I haven't. And one of them this week is Pat Mahomes.
Everyone seems to be loving Mahomes.
I am completely on board with him. And I want to preface this by saying that if you look at my takes on quarterbacks in past years, I've always been very, very measured. Until last year, I did not have a first-round grade on a quarterback between Andrew Luck's draft and last draft. Everyone was at least second round, if not later. Now, that doesn't mean I was right all the time. I certainly wasn't. But I normally have a very measured take on quarterbacks. With Mahomes, I'm willing to gamble on him. Okay. I'm absolutely willing to take the gamble on him. If I were Cleveland, I'd be going after
at 12.
Their guy at 1. Forget 12.
Okay.
I want to make sure I get him.
Yeah.
I'm taking the edge rusher at number 1, and I'm trading back up, maybe Tennessee at 5. I'm using those picks, making sure I get him. If I can get both those guys, here's what I love about Mahomes. Yes, the pocket stuff scares me, and I graded the West Virginia game, which was the game everyone points to as that's most terrifying.
Sack on him.
Yeah, I think he caused 8 or 9 pressures in that game by himself.
Yeah.
But what he can do in terms of improvising is so much better than anything anyone thought Johnny Manziel was capable of, because his arm is so much better. The velocity he gets out of it just by flicking his wrist. He can make throws accurate to all points of the field at all different arm angles. I think he understands defenses a lot better than he's given credit for because he went to Texas Tech. And one of the biggest things with him is I think all the off-field stuff for him is going to be huge. He's Pat Mahomes the second. Pat Mahomes the first was obviously a decade-long Major League pitcher. He was born and raised to be a professional. Mm-hmm. He knows what it takes. That to me is huge. Yeah. He's not a guy that I'm worried about what's he going to do when he gets that first paycheck. And everything I've heard is that he's going to be the guy that's going to be in the film room constantly outworking. I don't think you're going to get rid of some of the improvisational stuff. I think he's going to make bad decisions at times, but I think all the other stuff is going to outweigh that.
And he can throw it 80 yards in the air.
He can.
On a Hail Mary.
He can throw it 65 yards on his knees, which couldn't do that in the NFL or in college, but for some reason you need to in the NFL.
You could do it.
You could do it now. So, not that we judge our skills. My faller is Zach Banner, and I've gotten a chance to...
How was he ever high up for you?
I don't... Well, he's big.
He is big.
And in football...
He is too big, actually. But.
In football, you're supposed to be big, especially if you're an offensive lineman.
Yes.
You're supposed to be really big. Unfortunately, part of the thing that comes with being really big is you're also usually probably pretty slow. And whether it's out in space, whether it's adjusting... to any level of quickness, I just don't see him having the mobility in any respect right now to be a starter or really offer you much in terms of being a backup. He's going to have to lose 30, 40 pounds, really, in my opinion, to make us all. What do you weigh? 370?
Yeah, 370.
When we were at Senior Bowl.
It's like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, you can't play at that weight. And let's be honest, how many of those guys that go into Senior Bowl, go into Combine, overweight like that, how many of them end up really panning out?
Yeah, that's like the only time you're not supposed to show up overweight.
Yeah,
when you're actually getting weighed in.
Exactly.
Something. But yeah, I am on board with you with the Banner take. He can't move. On to some next segment, old scouting reports. We do this every week. Read one scouting report that we thought we kind of hit on, one that we were a little off on our evaluation, and the one from last year that guy we liked a lot, linebacker Jatavis Brown out of Akron, was just a missile there for them. Had by far the highest pass rushing grade of any off-ball linebacker. Could just defeat blocks so well. Our biggest worry was, I'll just go to the report here. He's a great athlete who wowed scouts with a 4.47 40-yard dash. He can be moved around, saw 95 snaps in the slot in 2015. Intriguing as a blitzer, 15 sacks, 12 hits, and 22 hurries on 144 pass rushes last year, those are unbelievable stats. Like, that's why we were just like, this guy can do some things that others can't. Here were our biggest concerns. Needs to improve as a tackler, 25 missed tackles on 195 attempts the past 2 seasons. Run defense is an issue with him, has no instincts whatsoever. Bottom line was you can make the case that Brown is a better athlete than a football player at this point, with a lot of his best work coming against lower competition. That being said, when you look at his overall performance and how he was able to contribute as a blitzer, combined with that athleticism, and he's an intriguing option at linebacker in this draft. We had about a 3rd, 4th round grade on him. I think he went in the 5th and played really well as a rookie. I think he's going to be starting. He was playing in a nickel role for them last year. He might move up to full-time for the Chargers. And yeah, I think he's definitely outplayed his draft position at this point. One we missed, though, and we missed fairly. Our evaluation of this guy was very off from the NFL's evaluation of this guy. That was Scooby Wright. Not even close. We had him as the 71st player on our big board last season. We had to talk some people down on him. Some people had him as a first rounder in our company. By the end, I got to the point where I was on board with 71 overall. I might have been I was definitely a little too high on him. He ended up going in the 7th round. He'd go UDFA, which was it? I can't even remember at this point.
Does it matter?
It doesn't. He bounced around. He played, I think, 3 snaps.
You know what? He was drafted because he's the one that dove in a swimming pool when he got drafted. Because they had the camera on him waiting for him to get picked all day.
He played all of 3 snaps, I think, last season. Just did not see the field. Still holding out hope, but here's what we wrote. Always plays moving forward against the run, meets blocks at the line of scrimmage play after play. Instincts and diagnosis on downhill runs off the charts. NFL-level lateral quickness, slides over and across blocks well. Here were his biggest concerns, though. His downhill nature is an issue against wide runs, can be late to get lateral and easily cut off. Very limited athleticism with rigid hips, which that should have been a red flag.
That's it. Right
not going to be someone you have covering the slot. Stack and shed ability, non-existent. Again, that's a big red flag that we should have taken into account. We'll get taken for a ride when he has to lock into an offensive lineman. And then the last one, plays lighter than his listed weight of 246 pounds.
Yeah, see, hindsight is so 20/20 there, but when you put together, okay, he doesn't have great athleticism. So A, he's not going to play in third down. B, you really don't want him as a Mike in a 43 either. Mm-hmm. He really needs to be in the 34. B, doesn't take on shed blocks, doesn't have that size or bulk.
Yeah.
That's something you're going to have to do if you're playing an inside linebacker.
Well, you don't have to do it at the NFL level, but you better be a good athlete if you don't want to take on blocks.
Yes, exactly.
Because if you try to play off
different ways to defeat
if you try to play off the side of blocks in the NFL, you just get taken out of a gap. You lose your gap control if you're trying to do that, and that was the biggest thing. And it doesn't look like he's going to be anything. We comped him to Vontaze Burfict. He's not even close to Vontaze Burfict at this point. So we'll see how he does going forward. Last segment, gonna handicap the draft. Josh, if you want to place a bet here, go ahead and place a bet. Steve's got like $500 out on the line at this point.
Oh, man.
Just on a ton of bets. We'll go over those back with him and Steve when he gets back. But this one, the bet I'm going to offer you has to do with the running back position. I have over/under 1.5 running backs going in the top 10. I know Fournette's getting pumped there in mocks. I know someone said Christian McCaffrey is a lock at this point in the top 10. Will we legitimately see 2 running backs go in the top 10 when the running back position in the NFL has just become supremely undervalued? But will we actually see that happen? Is that actually going to happen? I got plus 100 on the under, minus 120 on the over. So at this point, I think it's more likely that we actually do see it. So what do you think?
I think it's going to happen. I would put money on that one for sure. We talked about Jacksonville and not having a real position, and running back's one of those, and I think ultimately, while we're not huge on him, I know it makes you cringe, but
oh my god,
I think that's where Fournette's going to end up.
Oh my! If that actually happens,
I think it's going to happen. From our perspective, it's unfortunate. I hope it works out for them, obviously, but I just don't get the love for him there. But I think that's going to happen.
The easiest way to become a laughingstock, I mean, not that the Jaguars need any more help, but it's to draft a running back highly and then have him turn into Trent Richardson or Darren McFadden. It just can backfire so quickly. How about what Todd Gurley did last year? Yeah,
Todd Gurley went 10th overall. See, the thing is, too, in terms of this bet, you have him going at 4. All of a sudden, that opens up Carolina, Cincinnati back-to-back. I think one of those two, it's a shoe-in for McCaffrey.
So you're going to go
he's such a good player.
How much money are you going to put? Minus 120, how much?
So I got 500 to play with. I'll put 100 on that one.
Okay, 100.
I feel pretty confident on that one.
All right, 2 in the first round. I hope 2 in the top 10. Excuse me. I hope not. Jeez. All right.
That is all for us, though. Hope you enjoyed the show, and as always, make sure to go check out Draft Pass. Only less than a week before the draft. So profootballfocus.com/draftpass17. Our final big board is up. 200 players. Go check that out as well. We will be back next week for a ton of draft coverage. Hope you guys have a good one.